from Southern Maryland's weather leader. This is a JB Weather Alert.
Hello and good evening at this point. As we sit close to 6 o'clock, I am Forecaster John Bordash with you here in the JB Weather Center, continuing to track the threat of severe weather across our region as we see our cold front and our line of storms continue to slowly truck it on to the east. We do not have severe thunderstorm warnings for parts of the 301 corridor, so now kind of approaching the western parts of Southern Maryland, if you will. Southwestern Southern Maryland? I don't know. But let's start with the basics. We do still have this tornado watch in effect for all the counties shaded in yellow. And actually, I think it's been trimmed north and west. But it's still in effect for all of Southern Maryland until 9 o'clock this evening. With that said, and I've kind of been promoting this all day, and I can show you on a graphic here. I always was much more of a believer of the damaging wind threat here than the tornado threat, but both are still potentially at play here. Let me go ahead and bring you back on over to radar. Let me show you what it is we are looking at right now. If we put radar back in motion here over the last hour or so, you can see how this line has been progressing its way eastward. Those orange polygons represent severe thunderstorm warnings to varying degrees. And then if you see a red polygon, that's a tornado warning. And we actually just got a new tornado warning just southwest of Spotsylvania County and parts of Louisa County. This red polygon here. For the probably 3 followers we have down here in Louisa County, that goes until 6:30. But part of our story actually is with these two little cells, which I will come back to. But we have definitely seen our thunderstorms kind of congeal into one line that's progressing eastward. And I don't want to be overly optimistic or speak before the show's even begun, because it hasn't, but just from the damage reports that I have seen across our region so far today, I would potentially say that last week probably is maybe a step above what it is we're actually seeing out there today. So a lot remains to be seen, and maybe we can write a different story. But just as we sit towards 6 o'clock, we've seen the storms. Like, that part of the forecast didn't bust. And they've been widespread. They just haven't been as severe. There hasn't been a widespread outbreak that you would typically associate with the type of threat level that we've seen today. But nevertheless, we're still under that threat level, so things can change like that. You know how Mother Nature works, especially here in our region. But we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that I do want to get to. This is for western parts of Charles County, southern parts of PG County, southern parts of Anne Arundel County. It includes a small little sliver here of northwestern Calvert County. It includes half of Dunkirk. Up there on Route 4. And this goes until 6:45. And it's no question where this is coming from. As this line works eastward, it's for this line. Now, we have seen some showers and downpours and even thunderstorms develop out ahead of the main line. And that's actually currently moving through the Clinton area over towards Upper Marlboro, down towards Waldorf, getting towards Aquasco here, even getting some lightning strikes and thunder reports are out towards the beaches and Huntingtown as this line moves to the east. This line, as a whole, this is where our damaging wind risk is the highest. The tornado risk is going to be the highest with any storms that develop on the southern flank of this. So I already see comments, and not to call you out like Bryce, but no, I wouldn't put California in any sort of clear of anything. You might have a higher risk that we do need to talk about. Again, anything south of this line, which looks to cut off right here, right? So north of this line, north of this little line I just drew, this is where your wind threat's going to be the highest, right? It's south of here where your tornado risk right now appears to be the highest, because you don't have a line. What we have are individual storms. And here we go. I mentioned one town name, and then everyone starts to pour in with their town name questions. I disregard those comments. People can read maps. So south of that line is where the highest tornado risk is, and we see that already with the tornado warning down towards Louisa County. And that's actually with the storms that were moving through the Charlottesville and Stanton area earlier with tornado warnings themselves. These have just continued as this line has moved to the east. Is that to say that this little, and let me turn the lightning off so you can see it. And you can see we have our little rotation indicator that shows early signs of rotation. These two cells here. Does that mean that these two cells are going to hold together as they track eastward and hit Cobb Island? I don't know. I don't have a magic 8-ball. What I do know, though, is that the atmosphere remains conducive, right? That's funny. The atmosphere remains conducive. Hot and humid today. We have lots of storm energy. We have a lot of what we call shear, or that's going to be wind moving at different speeds and in different directions throughout different layers of the atmosphere. We recognize, right, that the Earth is not flat and that it is a three-dimensional figure. So our atmosphere goes from where we are here at the surface at ground level, hundreds of thousands of feet or tens of thousands of feet into the air. So throughout that column of air, the wind starts to move in different directions, and that can lead to tornadic development, which is what we're seeing down towards Louisa, and now a new severe thunderstorm warning for Spotsylvania. This will be a storm that I watch. Again, anything that develops south kind of Stafford and south of Culpeper will need to be watched. And all of this is moving kind of at like an east-northeast, generally east with a little hint of a northward motion with it as well. So if this storm down in Louisa were to hold together, yeah, that would be something to watch. But we'll see. We've seen a lot of different parts of this line cycle through, cycle up, cycle down. When these storms, if I were to put this on more like a 3-hour loop and turned off our local radar just with the national composite, this will take a second to kind of move through. Let's take it back here. You can see back 3-4 o'clock, we had lots of tornadic signatures, tornado warnings, very severe thunderstorm warnings, and that has kind of trended downward for the moment. I would suspect it likely picks up. The question is to what degree. Is it to the degree that we saw last weekend with widespread 80, 85 mile an hour wind gusts? That remains to be seen. Time will tell. But the atmosphere could potentially support that, especially between about now and about 7:30. When we really start to lose that daytime heating, when that sun really starts to get too low, that's when will start to lose some of that. But it remains to be something that we continue to monitor. Let me bring it back on over here to our graphics, right? Damaging winds remains the highest concern for me. For those of you that are under severe thunderstorm warnings, and just to refresh you, locally, that's really like the 301 corridor back to the west, right? So Charles County, PG, Anne Arundel, you all are the ones that we're watching, and if you're under one of those warnings, let me get you our safety protocols. You're going to want to be taking your tornado safety, or your severe weather safety precautions of moving indoors, moving away from windows, and shielding yourself. And we are looking at some pretty decent winds. I want to see if I can't just bring it up on this radar, and I suspect that I'm going to struggle with that because that's what this program likes to do to me. Well, parts of this line here moving right into Bowie. There we go. And I'm actually briefly going to turn off the severe thunderstorm warning so we can more clearly see this. We're seeing these wind gusts potentially upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour with this line. Let me turn those warnings back on. What you're going to be able to see a little bit clearer here is going to be a different program that I use. Let me bring it on over here. Our little 2-panel radar. On the left side of the screen, this is going to be normal radar that you see. On the right-hand part of your screen, or at least it's to my right, where you see these bright yellows and reds, this is going to be, actually I'll just make it into a 1-panel here to make things easier. These yellows here, right, this is indicative of winds up over 60 and over 70 miles per hour, so you're getting decent winds with this storm in Severn, Odenton, Bowie, and this is just moving to the south and east. So heads up in Crownsville, Parole, Annapolis, Cape St. Clair, Skidmore, Severna Park. this is going to be knocking on your doorstep. We see additional, where you get these yellows, again, that's up over 65 miles per hour. Baltimore on up towards rising sun. Locally, do we see that? No, not at all. But we do not have a brand new tornado warning for this southern cell that I mentioned a little bit ago. If it holds together, it's one of concern. That remains to be seen. But this little dude is going to be moving here into southern parts of Spotsylvania. For those of you watching in southern Maryland wanting to know, is this going to hit, I don't know, tall timbers? Take a second here with me, right? We know our weather moves from west to east, so we always have to look out towards the west. Using this version of radar, right, we call this our velocity mode. Velocity is a product of radar that tells us where we have winds in the atmosphere, in what direction they're moving, and how quick they're moving. Awesome product, right? So where we can get these red colors, right, that's indicative of winds going away from the radar. And then these green and blue colors, that would be winds going towards the radar. It's sort of overly strong signal, but it is a signal that we do have some broad rotation here north of Louisa that'll be moving into parts of Spotsylvania County here over the next little bit. And again, that will need to be watched. Let me take you back on over here to the prettier version of this radar. If we were to track this storm, oh, no, let's bring it back on over. So there's that tornado warning for Spotsylvania County. If we take our half-hour storm track or whatever, we're doing 30 miles an hour at about 70 degrees. Let's just call it there. This gives you a general look at that storm timing. And I suspect that we actually, I would think moving faster than that, but potentially nearing the Fredericksburg area as we approach 7 o'clock, which could potentially put something into our region here after that point, with the caveat, of course, of if this holds together, right? Again, I don't have a magic 8 ball. If I did, I would be making a lot more money than I do. But it's just something to watch. The atmosphere remains conducive for strong thunderstorms with hefty wind gusts, potentially upwards of 70 to 80 miles per hour. And yeah, that threat of a tornado does remain. It is only a tornado watch right now. Let me bring you back on over here. You see the graphic in the corner. But it's a tornado watch for right now. For southern Maryland until 9 o'clock for the next 3 hours. And all day, we've been pinpointing this point of the day between 6 and 9 o'clock to see potential nasty weather. So we'll see. So I see a couple of questions about like the National Harbor outlook. I know we do have the Pink concert. Trust me, my comment sections have been overridden with questions about what's going to happen at the Pink concert. Well, you've already seen nasty storms roll through, and you probably still have some storms moving through. So it's going to be something. Of course you're going to see impacts there. But we're going to watch all of this, right? This entire line continues to move eastward. I want to go ahead and see if I can't just get a 2-hour time track here. On our entire line. This gives you a good idea of what to expect. Generally, do not hold, it's not set in stone, right? So just generally speaking, Waldorf here over the next 10 to 15 minutes, Prince Frederick in about the next half hour, 45 minutes, Leonardtown in about the next hour. So if it hits 6:30, nothing's happening in Leonardtown, I don't need a Facebook message about that. Lusby in about the next hour, Lexington Park in about the next hour to hour and 10 minutes. And then as we approach the bottom of the 7 o'clock hour, maybe getting down towards Ridge, but we know how the southern St. Mary's County bubble holds up. So that is something to note. But we're going to continue to watch all of this. If we get any new warnings, of course, I'll be back here with you live. These, I don't want to diminish them because these are severe storms, but these are going to be your run-of-the-mill severe thunderstorms, if that makes sense. Dangerous yet, historic, no, right? So I would be moving indoors, taking those severe weather precautions, just getting away from windows. Like, to me, it seems like common sense stuff. You don't want debris hitting you through a window. So if you're under a warning, get away from the window, right? Get from outside indoors. And we're going to continue to watch this, right? All of this is moving eastward. Nothing to freak out over. If we get any pressing warnings, I'll be back here with you live and we'll talk through it. There's no sense in worrying. Just start to think if you have to deal with severe weather this evening, which most of you probably will. What would you do, right? But I'm here in the Storm Center throughout the rest of the evening. If you have questions, comments, concerns, try to reach out. And I know by saying that I just opened a can of worms with that. Like, what about North Beach? Like much of the region, over the next hour or 2 hours, we're likely going to be seeing some nasty weather. And Amy, you know what I'm talking about. That St. Mary's County bubble is always intact. And of course, my patience, I think I've slowly developed that quality over the last 10 years of doing this. I know y'all just want to know what's happening in your neck of the woods. And I got you. Stay weather aware, though. Next 1 to 2 hours, I think is really kind of like go time, if you will, and we're going to track all of this. I have continuous posts, though. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, y'all know the deal. And always hit up jbweather.net for the latest. In the meantime, I'm Forecaster John Bordash. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm sure we will be back here later on if there is a need to update you with any warnings.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.net.